Hello everyone, and welcome back to WolfQuest. We are here with Katari on the slopes of Amethyst Mountain in Yellowstone National Park, and we're following her currently as she travels to find a mate and searches for a mate. And one thing you guys have said is that you actually do want to hear more about Katari's backstory. So over the course of the episode today, I'll be sharing a little bit more of that, but right now we are focusing on trying to get Katari enough experience to actually be able to find a mate. Now, even when she does have enough experience, I'm not sure if we'll actually find her a mate right away, and that's in part due to her story, which, like I said, I'll be telling you a little bit more about it as we go through her activities here on the mountain and try to earn that experience. But first of all, let's check her pack stats and see where she is currently. Alright, it looks like she has 535 experience, and I believe you need 750 to find a mate. Excuse that that little thing there, I accidentally turned on the emotes. So we're just gonna head down, and we'll probably actually, I don't really want to go to this territory because I don't think she can take out any of the druid wolves. They're very powerful. We're gonna head to the wolf territory up the mountain and see if we can enter the social arena with any of the wolves up there and try to earn a little bit more experience by chasing them off. And I do want to say, in between the episodes, I mentioned this a little bit last time, I did go in and edit Katari's stats because I had them set at the default, and honestly, Katari strikes me as a lot quicker of a wolf, probably has a lot of stamina, but not as much strength. So if you notice in the pack stats, and I'll show it again, instead of the 50-50-50 like she has before, she now has 30 strength, 60 stamina, and 60 speed. So a little bit different, but and we're gonna go after this coyote because this is good experience. And in the wild, wolves actually would go after coyotes if there wasn't ample food for them, and not to eat the coyote, but the coyotes are predators like them and will compete for the same food, and so wolves will chase off and kill coyotes if given the chance. Although I think in case it depends on the situation. Like I said last time, any fight puts an animal at risk of being hurt, but wolves and coyotes do come into competition, so they probably wouldn't be on friendly terms unless there was a huge surplus of food. And in rare cases, there have been coyote-wolf hybrids recorded, and they're actually, I'd have to check on this, but I don't believe they are technically actually hybrids. I don't think they'd be considered hybrids. I know a wolf and a dog, even though they're often called wolf hybrids, are not actually considered hybrids. There's genetic differences in what is considered a hybrid and what isn't, and I believe in most cases with hybrids, hybrid animals can't breed, and we're now in the wolf territory, so we're going to start searching around for a scent. But I know wolf dogs are capable of having babies, and I believe coy wolves, as they're known, are too. And where? I hear the music, and it's saying there is a wolf somewhere, but I do not see the wolf. Oh, there, what? Oh! She's under the tree! She's hiding very well. So, like we determined last time, Katari is pretty sassy and would tend to stand her ground and be fairly aggressive, even towards wolves from a pack, even when she's on their territory. So, I do think she would challenge this wolf. And part of the reason that Katari is so aggressive and snappy is that she has had a pretty hard life, even in the 2 years she's had. And now, I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer, and I'll actually link to the original story where I have written out a lot of her story. And I do want to say with that, I'm planning on going back and rewriting it, so it's not only not done, but it also might not be the greatest in terms of writing. I have a lot of things I want to rewrite. I didn't like how it was working out. But Katari's backstory that I'm rolling with for this is based off a story I actually wrote, or started writing at least, on the WolfQuest forums. There's a coyote. We're gonna go get the coyote. But that I started writing on the WolfQuest forums a little while ago, and it is within the WolfQuest guidelines on there, and so it is considered realistic enough and the WolfQuest community does have a pretty high standard of realism, but it's not 100% totally realistic. Some of the elements of Katari's backstory, which is obviously fictitious, it might not entirely 100% reflect real wolf behavior. However, for a lot of it, I have tried to reflect real wolf behavior. And obviously this story will probably converge, and I'm just looking for a carcass right now, that's why I'm in scent view. Obviously this story will probably diverge from the story I have written out on the WolfQuest forum at some point, just because we're picking up from right when Katari disperses. Oh, and there is the elk herd. We're just gonna try and snag that carcass if the bull elk doesn't stay too close to it. I don't want to get clobbered by him as I go to eat. But yeah, so in the fictional story that I have for Katari, oh my gosh, that's a cougar. No, cougar, you do not. We're gonna try and bite it from behind. Oh, it ran already, wow. Just like we did with bears so that we can avoid taking damage, and we actually did not get hurt. Where did it even go? It ran off this way again. But so Katari's story is that actually, she was the only pup to survive from her litter. And, let's go ahead and we'll hunt some elk while we're here, while I'm talking. And she actually was the only surviving member of her litter. Her other siblings, her brothers, unfortunately did not make it. And her father was actually killed in a hunting accident shortly after she was born. Her father had been a lone wolf, a dispersal, but her mother had been a member of a pack who left after she met the wolf who eventually became her mate, Katari's father. And so they had settled down relatively near Katari's mother's original territory, the territory of her natal pack, as they call it, so the birth pack. But Katari's mother actually disappeared a little while after Katari was born and actually did not come back, and they don't know what happened to her. She just vanished. But Katari survived, even though she was a very young pup, thanks to the fact that her aunt actually came and found her, and her aunt had actually lost a litter of her own and ended up taking Katari in and raising her as her own pup. Now, that is the part of the story that's probably the most unrealistic, because it is very, very rare, if ever. I don't even know if it's been recorded. I don't know if there's a documented case of a wolf taking in another wolf's pups. But after talking with a lot of the people who do know quite a bit about wolf behavior on the forums, they thought that it would be decently realistic for a wolf to take in a related pup if the conditions were right. And so the conditions surrounding that made it plausible, if not entirely realistic, were that there was quite a lot of food at the time, and even though the pack leader, the lead female, they're not called alphas anymore, they used to be, but they aren't anymore, that the lead female had a litter of her own, and usually that means that the lead female will, in order to ensure that her puppies get the best care and that her genetics are able to be passed on, because that's what survival is about for wild animals, is about passing on your genetics. And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm kind of incoherent and rambling here, trying to gather myself together, but in the wild, surviving is about passing on your genetics. So, in order to ensure that her genetics are the ones that are passed on and not another wolf's, the lead female of a pack will usually try and make sure none of the other females will find mates, unless they actually leave the pack. And in many cases as well, the lead female of a pack and the lead male are actually the parents, and the other pack mates are their children from previous litters who have grown up and are helping the pack. There we go. Sorry, but that help raise litters and that help raise the younger puppies, basically. But in Katari's case, the leader of the pack she grew up in was actually the third sister. So her mother's sister and her aunt's sister as well. They had another sister. Who is the pack leader, and because of the fact that Katari was not her pup, not her genetics being passed on. You can hear the plane in the background here again, it's flying around somewhere, because Katari has that radio collar. But because Katari was not her daughter, the pack leader never really got along too well with her. She tolerated Katari's presence, but they did not get along, and the pack leader really didn't like her too much. And Katari actually ended up not necessarily leaving the pack on her own, and it's a little bit different. The story, this is kind of where the stories diverge a little bit, because in the actual book, we're getting a bit of lag. In the actual book I was writing, it was a little bit more complicated, and if you end up going to read that, you'll see that's more complicated. I'm kind of just looking for more elk to hunt while I'm talking, but in here we're just going to say that Katari didn't exactly disperse from her pack, but she was relocated to Yellowstone, because that actually did happen. When wolves were eradicated in Yellowstone, and I don't actually see the elk herd here. I'm going to leave the territory and come back. Sometimes that helps. Or maybe I'm just missing them. But when wolves were eradicated from Yellowstone, and it really did a lot of damage to the ecosystem, they actually ended up finding wolves and bringing them in from other places to repopulate Yellowstone. And that's, in the game version here of Katari's story, that's what we're going to say happened. Katari was caught as a young female from her birth pack and brought to Yellowstone to help repopulate it. And that's why she has a radio collar, because the researchers are tracking her and trying to make sure she's doing okay and seeing what she's up to if she finds a mate successfully, starts a pack successfully. But Katari is a little bit headstrong and pretty independent, and to be quite honest, she really at this point doesn't think she needs a mate. And because she had her aunt, the pack leader, was really not the nicest to her and only let her stay because there was ample enough food for both her own pups and Katari to be able to survive, Katari has had kind of a more difficult life. She's not used to other wolves being very kind to her, and so she's kind of mistrustful of other wolves, and that's yet another reason that she doesn't feel like she needs a mate or even wants a mate. So just because we start bumping into dispersal males doesn't mean that Katari is going to be ready to accept any of them. So we'll have to see what comes of that. And she certainly doesn't, if she doesn't approve of other wolves, she certainly doesn't approve of coyotes. There's the elk herd. So she tends to be a very independent, very snarky, kind of sassy wolf who very much thinks she can make it on her own, and so far has been doing pretty well with that. We'll have to see if something happens to her to change her mind about that, or we'll have to see how the story plays out. Right now, she's just hunting to ensure she has ample food for as long as she stays here. And of course, from the game perspective, to make sure she raises her experience so she can find a mate eventually. Because if we stay in Amethyst Mountain forever, let's face it, that will get boring after about 5 episodes perhaps, or less. So, from the game perspective, yes, at some point we will be getting a mate for Katari. From her perspective, right now, she's still convinced she can do just fine, and again, we're kind of personifying the wolves a little bit, and it's not 100% realistic because in the wild, a wolf's goal is to find a mate, pass on its genetics, and eventually raise its puppies to adulthood so that their genetic line can go on. But we're kind of humanizing Katari to an extent and giving her more emotions than a wolf would probably feel, and giving her more of a human level of thought in that she still desires independence. That probably, and still wants to do things on her own. That probably wouldn't so much be the case for a wolf in the wild. But this is a story, and even the game itself isn't going to be entirely realistic, although it does a pretty stinking good job. So we can take some creative liberties here a little bit, and we got the elk ready to go down. So let's go ahead. And I'll actually probably be putting up another video pretty soon here that has some bloopers, because I'm actually on the beta team for WolfQuest. and I was able to capture some footage that was pretty funny of beta testing the new moose update, and I have permission from the developer one of the head developers to share it, as long as it's not spoilers. So don't ask me to spoil things for upcoming updates or whatever. I won't tell you anything about anything new unless you can already find it on the forums. I will not I will not share beyond what I am allowed to share. So, but I will show you beta bloopers, and if you have questions about an upcoming update, I will look on the forums and see what has been released about any upcoming updates and tell you. Right now, I can't tell you if there are going to be plans for new updates or what plans might be if we have any, so yeah. You'll just have to keep an eye on the forums for that, and I will try and keep an eye on the forums too and keep you updated with what has been released. So, but enough about that. Let's get back into this. So, Katari has been doing quite a bit of hunting. She's actually created quite a few carcasses now. You can see several of them scattered around. I think she'd try to come over here where there aren't any carcasses, because there's hardly any down towards this territory down here. You can see the tree line over there. Those aspen trees are part of another wolf's territory, another wolf pack's territory, and there's not really any elk that way. So I think she would try and chase an elk down there so she has a little more food wherever she goes. Right now, she really doesn't know what she's doing or why, because she woke up in this strange new land with no idea of how she got there or what happened, because she was taken from her home by researchers to help and repopulate Yellowstone with wolves. And, so she really doesn't even know how she got there. She doesn't know how she'd be able to get home if she wanted to go home. She really doesn't know much of anything about what is going on here. So she's still very much figuring things out. I'm kind of just trying to get her bearings, and I think she would go around and do some hunting to ensure that she has ample food. And in the wild, wolves will not kill more than they need to. They don't hunt for sport like people sometimes do, and that's a common misconception, is that wolves like hunting and just do it for fun. Actually, hunting is very, very dangerous for wolves, and wolves can be hurt or even killed while hunting, so they only do hunt what they need to survive. They don't hunt in surplus in most cases. I don't know of really any cases where they would. If they do, it's by accident. They hunt when they're hungry and when they need food, and they can go quite a decent period without having a lot of food. What? Oh, that's just a tree. So they don't hunt. They're not just cold-blooded killers like a lot of people tend to make them out to be. And it's hard because you don't want to vilify them, but you also don't want to humanize them too much when thinking about real wild wolves, because obviously, I mean, we're playing from Katari's perspective, and she has a much more human level of thought and emotions than a real wolf would. And I think there's a carcass over here, because I think I see ravens in the sky, and I hear elk noise. Maybe there's not, but I hear elk. The elk music. So we're gonna keep looking. Oh, they're right here. And we're gonna go ahead and try and spook one of the elk. We'll go ahead and go after this one. And right now, Katari has been hunting down the weaker elk, and that is what wild wolves will do. They'll try to minimize the risk of getting hurt or killed or anything like that by trying to take on the weaker animals, and that naturally helps cull off the weak and sick and ensure that the healthy elk are the ones that survive, again, pass on genetics. But I think Katari, being the little bit more personified wolf that she is, would be maybe getting a little bit cocky, thinking, okay, I can do this, I've taken down several elk already. Maybe she'd start thinking she could do a little better. Perhaps she'd be considering a bull elk or even a moose as something she could hunt down. I don't know. She might be thinking about that, might be considering trying to take one of those down soon, trying to take down the bull, or maybe even if she ran across a moose. I think she was pretty scared by the moose. The first time she encountered the two bulls fighting up on the ridge, that was pretty cool, but I think that was honestly a bit intimidating to her because I don't know, has she even ever seen a moose? I think she grew up in like a plains area. And so I don't know if there were even moose where she originally lived. She maybe was kind of intimidated. What is this thing? It's huge. It has horns. There's two of them. I'm going to run away from them. So, I don't know. But she might be starting to get a little bit more confident now that she's had great success with her elk hunts. And she might be starting to think about taking down bigger prey sometime soon. But right now she's just focusing on this elk, and then she's gonna go stick her nose in the wolf pack territory up here and just see what's up here. See what's going on. And you can hear the plane again. And I don't know, would Katari be kind of curious about that plane? I think it's kind of become background noise at this point. She probably was a little spooked the first time, but at this point I think she's kind of used to it, and it's just like, okay, that happens every now and then. Maybe doesn't even really notice it too much now. You can hear it coming by. I don't see. Probably looks up every now and then. I don't see it though. Maybe has noticed the plane a few times, but as long as it keeps its distance, I don't think she minds excessively. Now she does take quite a lot of damage from these elk hunts though. In fact, she got down to some pretty low health, but she's always been able to replenish it from the carcasses, and especially as there are more carcasses around, she's more confident that she can actually find the food to heal herself when she needs it. So, and the plane is going off into the distance again. You can hear it fading away. So she's gonna head up. I think she smells wolf scents on the wind, and she's gonna come up here and just see what's up, see what's going on up here, and see if she can find any other wolves and kind of just figure out what's going on. So she's headed straight into wolf territory again. And that should be right up here. That's a little further up than I remember it being. There we go. Now we're in wolf territory. And she's just kind of looking to see if there are other wolves, which there are, and it seems like they're this way. So right now she's kind of just been running around meeting the packs, figuring out who's who, where the boundaries lie, where the territories are. She wouldn't probably let them get away with bossing her around, but I think she realizes that there are wolf territories and she should probably be kind of careful. However, this wolf is not a pack wolf. This is actually a dispersal male. And I'm not sure what Katari would think about that. He's a little uncertain, and I honestly feel like she is quite uncertain too. But she certainly doesn't think that she needs a mate. I still think she'd greet him and just say hello there. Friendly wag her tail. I don't know. She definitely wouldn't say, let's start a pack. Would she say, I like you? I don't know. She might. She probably would greet him with a little bit of a friendly sniff, and just see what's going on. And you know, I'm trying to stay true to her personality in this, and not just rushing through and trying to find a mate straight off the bat. But she probably would still be friendly. I mean, as long as the other wolf isn't too aggressive, she's probably friendly. But the second the other wolf shows signs of hostility, she's very suspicious. I don't think she would say, let's start a pack. She certainly doesn't think she needs a mate at this point. She'd probably just wanna play again, and just a little bit, and kind of enjoy a little bit of time with a wolf who's not part of a pack. And he said, don't go away. He didn't like that too much. I don't know if she'd say, let's be friends. I don't think she would be that quick to trust him, but she might say, let's hang out. And see what he says to that. Yeah, he liked that. But I don't know. I think she'd just sniff him again. She's not ready to say, let's start a pack, and I think she's probably getting a little bit concerned. A little bit like, okay, he's a little bit more forward than I thought he would be. And it's not going too well. I think at this point she would probably run off and just be like, wow, he was very forward, and and I came out with a pop-up here. It says, you haven't found a mate yet, but there are a lot of wolves out there still. You do better if you gain experience by hunting elk. You'll need over 800 experience before you meet a potential mate, so it's 800. Your ideal mate, about 2 years old, a dispersal wolf, like yourself, a wolf which has left its natal pack to find a mate, a good temperament, not too aggressive. So, I don't think they've actually implemented the age. That would be kind of an interesting thing. I'm gonna have to go suggest that. It'd be kind of cool if they did have different age wolves, like if you could click on them and find out different information about them. And dispersal, yes, that's implemented. I haven't actually met a dispersal wolf that's aggressive either. It'd be cool if they kind of had different temperaments, and maybe if it wasn't, because there is a certain sequence that you just have to do each time. And you can hear the elk bugling in the distance, but there is a certain sequence, and you hit the same social cues in the same sequence. Once you know what it is, it's fairly easy. Oh, there's another cougar. I don't know. I don't think Katari likes cougars too much. And actually, in the book, she has a run-in with a cougar that kind of turns out a little bit scary. But, this is, where the story branched before that point in the story. So she hasn't had that run-in here, but I still don't think she likes them that much. And I don't know, I think she would chase him off, although I don't know if she's going to catch this one. It's quite fast. She'd probably chase it quite a bit, and, you know, I don't know. I don't know if how much an instinctual rivalry between cats and dogs would play into it, because, that kind of is just humans' perspective on it, perhaps. And cats and dogs certainly don't get along, though. But in any case, they are both predators. They are competitors. Ooh. Ooh. Cougar's not happy. I think she'd growl. I don't think she'd be too happy. I think she'd go after the cougar again and probably get a good whack to the face for it. And it's on the run again. But I think she would try and bite it in the butt. Because she's not very happy with this cougar now. It has also hit her in the face. And she's not too happy with that. She just got stuck in the sage bush. But she's not too happy with this cat having whacked her a couple of times, and I don't think she'd stand for that. She's a little bit reckless as well. That's the other thing about her. And she's still quite a young wolf, so she hasn't had all that much experience. And I'm sorry, but I like how these guys run. They're just boink, boink, boink. And it keeps turning really sharp. I don't think she's happy with this, though. Now she's not just chasing the cougar like, what are you doing? This is my place. What are you doing? Get away. Now she's chasing it because she's like, no, that's not okay. I'm not gonna put up with you having come after me like that. And I don't think you can actually kill the cougars. I believe the cougars and the bears will at some point stop losing health, and usually they would run away and you'd have to literally just sit there and chase them. So it's not worth chasing them off, or it's not worth chasing them down once you chase them off, but you can chase them off, and it does give you quite a bit of experience. And the thing is, too, the more experience you have with a wolf, the more you can unlock as terms of Easter eggs. There's like a special den, there's a white wolf puppy, and at this point, I don't know. I don't think she'd back down quite so easily yet, especially if she started gaining on it like that. But she is getting a little hungry. She does kind of want to eat. And I think at some point, indignation would wear off and hunger would kind of take over. And there are some carcasses up here. She'd probably go and start eating those, and we'll have to see if the cougar would come back and try and steal from the carcass. If so, I don't think she'd stand for that either, and that's what she remembers about the other one, is that it did come and try and challenge her while she was eating. And she didn't take to that too well. But, I think at some point here, she would kind of just give up, and I think she'd probably go and say, okay, to heck with this. It's running. I'm not going to catch up to it at this point, but it's leaving. So I'm going to go get food. But yeah, I don't think she's quite ready to try and find a mate. And there's a coyote coming, and I don't think she would appreciate that too much either. She's quite snippy. That's the other thing, is I think if another wolf did come and try and take her food, she would not appreciate that too much either. And she would probably go after him for that. But as long as it's a friendly encounter, she'll be friendly, even if she's not trusting and certainly not ready to start a pack. And something came through here. Here's some elk scent. I think she would go And I think the more she's been hunting down the weak and the sick, the more she's been starting to eye the impressive bull elk that you can see back in the background there. I think she might, the more she's hunted, I think the more she is starting to get confident, even a little bit cocky. And I think this time she would probably still go after one of the weaker elk, but she's certainly considering maybe testing her strength out a little bit more, finding out what she's capable of, just kind of trying to reassure herself, and the idea that she doesn't really need help from anyone else, and she doesn't intend to settle down just yet. And so we're gonna keep looking, but I don't know, we might kind of track which wolves she's interacted with as far as when it comes to dispersals, because I think it would take Katari more than one encounter to be able to actually choose a mate. There we go. And smart elk running back through the herd. Not so smart getting stuck in the trees, though. But, I think it would take her more than one encounter. She'd probably have to kind of go up to him and sniff him a couple of times, at least, in separate encounters. So we'll have to see if that black wolf shows up again and what she thinks of him the next time they bump into each other, if they do. So she's met a dispersal male who's hanging out down in I forget what it's called, the grassy plain area. And I think she kind of likes that area because it reminds her a little bit more of home. She's a little bit uncomfortable in the woods, but she's getting more used to it. But yeah, so I think that's how we'll play it, is we won't just straight away, because the one thing about WolfQuest is that it can get kind of repetitive, and you have to kind of find ways of making each journey unique. And I think just not straight off finding a mate and going through the whole social rigmarole that you normally do is one of the ways we can make it more unique. And I kind of just spam spacebar right now. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but if you can, that's just me hitting it. But this is where we're going to leave her for today. So she had her first run-in with the dispersals. She had a couple run-ins with cougars that she wasn't too pleased with. Fought off a couple coyotes, met one of the wolves in the mountain territory, and I think she's getting a little bit more settled into her new home in Yellowstone. So we'll have to see what she uncovers next time in the next episode. But until then, this is Jay, over and out.